Hey, what is up mortals? It is BubblyNami here, and before we get into today's video, there is something I'd like to say. I'd like to let you all know that we have a merch store. Some of the items in there are only available for a limited amount of time, so if you're interested, go into the description and check it out. Each purchase helps us make more content. Secondly, if this video hits 500 likes by the end of the week, we will continue this what if. Thirdly, if you didn't know, only 41.3% of you guys are subscribed to us. So please hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the story. This sports festival is something the whole country is watching. I want you to tell the world, I am here. Those words that carry great meaning engraved into the soul of Izuku Midoriya. Even as he walked out into the playing field, his heart thumping loudly. This was it, the UA Sports Festival. The multitude of spectators roared in a frenzy of excitement as the games were about to begin. This was one of many opportunities held once a year by UA, where an aspiring hero could prove his mettle and gain significant recognition by pros and country at large. So it wasn't one that Midoriya planned on passing up. He'd proved to All Might that he could control this power he had inherited and become the greatest hero just like him. Midoriya's life had been a roller coaster for the past few months. So many things he'd never thought would happen in a million years occurred every day, all because he never stopped believing. Born in a world where majority of the populace possess an uncanny ability known as quirks, there was a particular body of people who oversaw the affairs of justice, dealing it, and apprehending those who unlawfully utilized their quirks to perform heinous acts. Heroes as they were called. That was all Izuku ever dreamed of becoming, using his potentials to save people with a reassuring smile akin to his idol, All Might, the #1 hero. But alas, that dream seemed far-fetched when he turned 4, and he was diagnosed as quirkless. Still, he never doubted he'd be a hero, for one day, constantly reaching towards that goal and the fateful encounter with All Might, he was given the power to do so. The quirk he had inherited from All Might was originally a quirk that stockpiled power and unleashed it with mighty force, that made the #1 hero a formidable force. But upon receiving the quirk that had had many generations, something odd happened. Izuku, instead of utilizing the physical enhancements of One For All, used a quirk of a former user, Black Whip. With speculations, it was concluded by All Might this new development could possibly lead him to utilize the other quirks of the former user. But even still, this Black Whip was as powerful as the raw power having been melded with One For All. It had stockpiled so much that upon his first usage, he lost control, leveling many buildings in the entrance exam, and over the course of weeks, he gained slight control, able to unleash its 100% with reduced backlash to specific areas of his body. Unlike his initial usage, still, he suffered great damage from using it. The teacher Mike Presenter gave his introduction pertaining to Class 1A, thus signaling them to walk out onto the field. True to his praises, they had seen so many things even in their short time of being students. Experience a villain attack at USJ had shown them the weight of a hero's job and how unprepared they were, but that was what drove them all to become stronger, to jump into situations quickly with precise analysis. He walked out with a nervous look on his face. There were so many people in the stadium. All around him, he was surrounded by his focused classmates, each and every one putting on a UA Sports uniform, each and every one of them bent on making a name for themselves. The rest of the departments were introduced into the field, while they listened to the instructions given by the pro hero Midnight. It's time for the player pledge. Representing the students from Class 1A, Katsuki Bakugo, Midnight said, her voice booming throughout the whole stadium as Bakugo, a spiky blonde with red eyes, walked out slowly, hands in his pocket. Bakugo and Midoriya had been friends from childhood. That was until the former had gained his quirk and Midoriya hadn't. Bakugo changed, becoming feisty with an explosive personality akin to his quirk. He was more or less a bully, with a big pride which was hurt badly when he finally found out Midoriya, who he had thought useless, had a powerful quirk all along, or so he thought. Izuku couldn't disclose how he got One For All to anyone, and also the way he lost the combat training to Izuku, as well, all those strengthening his resolve not to lose again. He walked up to the microphone slowly, taking a moment to look around before he spoke. I pledge to win, he said simply, And what the other departments thought was haughty, Bakugo had made enemies with them the previous day and they weren't too fond of 1A, but Izuku read great meaning to his words. This was a different Bakugo from the one he knew. Midnight explained the first round of the festival was an obstacle course round the track outside the stadium. Everything went as long they didn't stray off the course. With the explanations, they took their places just in front of an entrance while they waited for the command to begin. Start! Midnight yelled as the students began their run. As they ran, everyone at their own pace into the tunnel, there was a problem. The tunnel was too small to fit each student, trying to rush out at the same time, and now they were all huddled into the space. Ow, ow, hey, move, ouch! Various cries erupted from different angles, as each one laminated and pushed against the others. Izuku lay helpless, getting pummeled with flying elbows to his face. This was the first obstacle. He reasoned it was obvious they all couldn't fit through that tunnel at once. The first sifting, a silent voice said, and then suddenly cold air blew all through the whole tunnel, accompanied by a large expanse of ever-growing ice. It swept through the tunnels, extending its reach to even freeze the walls of the tunnel outside it. This ice froze solid the legs of many students, halting them in their tracks, while a boy with half white and half red hair ran out from the tunnel, freezing the ground behind him with every step he took. Sorry, he uttered as he ran ahead. Todoroki had something to prove with his sports festival. Everyone was watching, and most especially his father, the number 2 hero, Endeavor. Incapable of surpassing All Might, Endeavor resorted to indulge in an arranged marriage, buying off the family of his wife to breed perfect children, so to speak, that could carry out his wish and overtake the number 1 hero, calling his other children failures until he made Todoroki. He brought him up with harsh and grueling training from a young age, with much abuse towards his wife, leading to her mental breakdown. Here, Todoroki would prove that he would win this festival without using his father's part of his quirk, and so he'd have to be unrelenting and cruel. Out of the tunnel, flying in the air, were Bakugo, Kirishima, and other Class 1A students, who had easily escaped the clutches of the ice. "You half-and-half bastard! I won't let you win!" Bakugo yelled, blasting himself forward with explosions from his hands that were stretched behind him. Many other students had escaped the ice as well. Midoriya too, who scuttled precautiously on the ice slowly, most students using their quirks to move forward quickly. But Midoriya knew the amount of times he could use his quirk was limited. Right now, he'd have to use his wits and everything he'd learned to survive. "I've outwitted you, Todoroki! Take this, my special attack!" A shrill voice yelled just above Todoroki, who was in the lead. Mineta, a short boy with a perverse mind and oddball stuck to his head, shouted. He had used his sticky balls as a platform to boost himself forward, gaining second spot, and now he planned to take Todoroki out. But just as he motioned to pluck more balls from his head, he was slapped out of the air by a mechanical arm just in front of him. "The Fox villains from the entrance exam!" Midoriya yelled, coming to a halt, as did everyone else. This was one of the many robots placed in the first exams, one that was supposed to be avoided if possible. Just one was a problem alone, as it was so large. Izuku had been able to take out one before at the expense of his body, but now there was a great number of them blocking their path. If they'd gone through this trouble, I wish they'd prepared something better, Todoroki said coldly as the robots motioned to attack. Ice surrounded his left leg with jutting chunks, while his left arm was engulfed in the cool mist. Slowly bringing it to the ground, erupted large waves of ice that crept fast onto the robots, freezing and immobilizing them. "Now!" Izuku yelled from where he stood, his right arm outstretched, aiming at the head of one of the robots. This was his chance. Now that Todoroki stopped the robots, he'd use his quirk to get an advantage over the rest. From his hand, a black tendril shot at blinding speed. Torrents of wind burst all around him, sending people flying with a large explosion. The tendrils embedded in the robot, dragging Izuku forward. He propelled himself high in the air, shooting off like a rocket, his skin flapping strongly against the wind and his eyes tearing up while he took the lead. Before we get back into the story, I would like to say that we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes over the hard facts of the anime presented. Now, in case you guys didn't know, we have a third channel called We the Celestial Naruto What If. We the Celestial Naruto What If mainly focuses on our Naruto What If series. If you are interested in content like this, please go check the description below or click the icon in the top right corner. Now with that out of the way, let's get back into the story.
Izuku Midoriya from 1A takes the opportunity and blasts off into the lead.
My presenter yelled, "Damn Deku, that bastard!" Bakugo yelled, destroying a robot that had now defrosted. Todoroki ran as fast as he could to catch up with Midoriya. "He used me to take the lead," he said, ticked. "Get on my way, you half-and-half bastard!" Bakugo yelled, coming in close range with Todoroki. He unleashed a wave of explosions in his direction, while Todoroki defended with a wall of ice that shattered into many fragments upon impact, while the two jockeyed for position. I managed to get ahead. Now how do I stop? Izuku wondering, now plummeting downwards, his right arm badly hurt with many cuts and cracked bones at various angles. The release of his power was too great and damaged him like before. Oh no, I'm heading towards the obstacle, he exclaimed. Just up ahead was a large gorge below. All around it were various large rocks and ropes, from one end to the gorge to another. I'm gonna fall in. Think, Izuku said suddenly, getting an idea he was headed towards the bottom of the gorge. But just close by was one of the ropes extended over it. He could grab it. Hopefully, it would be strong enough to hold him, but the timing had to be perfect, and his grip strong, so he didn't slip. 1, 2, 3! Izuku counted, stretching out his arm, grabbing the rope tightly. The force he incurred caused him to spin round and round, but he didn't let go until he eventually stopped. Yes! I finally stopped! Whoa, that's a long way down, he said nervously as he looked down. Ha! Finally caught up to you, you bastard! I'm gonna win this, not you, idiot! A loud voice called from behind. Craning his neck, he saw Bakugo heading towards him with top speed. Quickly, Midoriya began to crawl upside on the rope. He had the lead, but he knew it couldn't be for long. Bakugo had the speed advantage here, and using his quirk now wasn't an option. He'd have to save it for later. Easily, Bakugo and Todoroki caught up and overtook Midoriya, reaching the landmine field first. They resumed combating each other, slowly making sure not to trigger the landmines. Other students made their way through it, some sent flying, others making slow and steady progress. Midoriya managed to finish the first obstacle, but rather late, many people had not gotten ahead, completing the landmine field. Now Bakugo and Todoroki were on the last stretch, to return to the stadium. I'll never make it in time. Think, Deku. What can I do? His eyes looked round frantic. As his brain formulated a plan, the only conclusion he could come to was to use his quirk again. He'd have to use Black Whip one more time if he wanted to win this. The plan this time was similar to before, but this time he'd use his two hands. Hopefully he'd have a chance to go to Recovery Girl before the next round. Aiming his two hands far out at the ground, just behind the two ahead, he wouldn't want them to be caught up in the range of the explosion that would follow. It's now or never. I'll win this, he yelled, simultaneously shooting out the whips from his arms. They shot ahead with such celerity, those of the landmines flew away due to the shockwave. Those tendrils then drilled and sucked into the ground. Midoriya gripped it, propelling forward fast, while retracting the tendrils, shortening them, hole blazing forward. Bakugo and Todoroki were in a heated rivalry. Icy smoke whipped up all around them both, about to reach the entrance to the stadium.
Who's gonna get to the stadium first?
Mike President yelled, the crowd rooting loudly.
The winner is...
Mike said, stalling slightly. Todoroki's feet almost first over the threshold into the stadium. Like a bullet, Midoriya shot through the air. He was almost close he could make it and win this round. Sailing ahead his frame came in between Bakugo and Todoroki.
The winner is Todoroki. Midoriya, with a valiant display of his quirk, earned second place, with Bakugo just behind him. Just an inch away, Midoriya would have secured the victory. Don't you think so, Eraserhead?
Mike yelled over the microphone. He wasn't fast enough. Midoriya had been greatly slowed down by the other obstacles. If he had just been a second later, he'd won. His landing wasn't graceful either, tumbling all throughout the stadium with many scrapes and cuts. His arms were damaged badly as well. You did great, Deku. You'd have won it. I guess you should see Recovery Girl before the start of the second round, Uraraka said cheerily with a smile on her face. Midoriya smiled back, blushing hard, listening to her as he rushed over to Recovery Girl, quite sad his efforts didn't secure him first place. Don't beat yourself up, kid. You did good. You've got the second and final round to make up for it, All Might said to him as she tended to his wounds, making sure not to exhaust much of her stamina so she could continue. The second round came, a cavalry battle, where a team of 4 was required to steal points from the other team to win. Only the first 4 could advance to the next round. Deku teamed up with Uraraka, Hatsumi from the support course, and Fumikage from his class, and were able to secure the third spot in this round. Coming in first was Todoroki's team, who defended their 10 million points flawlessly. Bakugo's team fell in just behind them. It all lasted for 15 nerve-wracking minutes, but he succeeded and moved to the final round. The final round consisted of one-on-one battles. The only way to win was to push your opponent out of bounds, immobilize them, or cause him or her to surrender. And first up was Midoriya, going up against Shinso from the general studies. Ojiro, before the commencement of the finals, told him about his weird quirk, warning him, don't respond to the questions or else you'll get caught up in a mind control. I fell for it and worked on his team until I bumped into someone. I was under his control. The possibility of you bumping into someone is 0, so you've got to be careful. Beat him for you and me. He remembered his words clearly. Standing off with his purple head, the signal for the match began went. That monkey was going on about his pride earlier, but I think he's a fool for throwing his chance away, Shinso said. He had thrown a few questions earlier to which Midoriya ignored. He had obviously and quite easily struck a chord with this one. Don't talk about Ojiro! That was... Midoriya started angrily moving forward before he stood immobile, caught under the mind control. Now turn around and walk out of bounds, Shinso said, complying blindly. Turning back, he took step after step, getting closer to the boundary line.
What's this? Midoriya's obeying him.
The presenter said to dismay of his classmates, who yelled to snap him out of it. What's this? I can't control myself. Is it over? Even though everyone is counting on me? Huh? Just as his leg was about to cross the line, Midoriya saw a vision where 7 shady figures stared out at him, one resembling his teacher All Might, but there was one more vivid than the rest. He stood with his palm outstretched, with the black whip quirk izuku used emanating from it. Energy surged through him as One for All channeled its way into his hand. A huge gust of dust engulfed him. Shinsu was shocked. So was everyone watching, wondering what had happened. The dust cleared and Izuku wasn't there, just a crater on the boundary. Look above, he's in the air! Someone yelled from the crowd, as everyone turned their attention and heads up seeing Midoriya flying over towards Shinso, who now looked scared, yelling out questions to Midoriya, trying to get him under his control again. Stepping back as the lad was flying towards him, balling up his right fist that appeared burnt. He clenched his teeth, drawing back his arm. He couldn't respond to Shinso, but his expression said it all, as he landed one strong right hook, his fist finding Shinsu's jaw with such force that it sent him flying out of bounds.
Midoriya wins, and he advances to the next stage.
Mike Presenter roared in ecstasy, likewise the spectators. I did it! I won! Midoriya said to himself, clenching his fist looking at the devastated Shinso, who couldn't help but understand the boy's pain. Just like him, Shinsu sought to be in the hero's course, but was transferred to general course as he couldn't complete the practical aspect of the entrance exam. This was one of the only opportunities he had to transfer to the hero course. Don't look at me with pity, Midoriya. I haven't given up on my dreams yet. I'll become a hero, regardless of whatever happens, Shinsu said as he walked out of the arena, Midoriya giving a brief nod in response. He went over to Recovery Girl to get his injuries tended to, who spoke out of the concern while she kissed his injuries. You need to stop getting injuries like this. You've been here twice already. There's a limit of how much I can heal you, you know, she said. All Might, I have something to tell you though. We established that I acquired the quirk from the predecessor first. Something odd happened while I was under Shinsu's trance. I saw 8 shady individuals in a vision. One of those silhouettes belonged to you, or looked like you rather, and only one was very clear, the owner of the black whip quirk. I saw him clearly, and I was able to break hold. What do you think it means, All Might? Izuku asked the number 1 hero questioningly. Well, something like this just happened to me in the past. I saw a vision quite similar to yours, but you were able to see one of those figures clearly. Those are fragments of the spirits of the former users of this quirk that were ingrained into you. Being able to see that means your quirk is becoming more attuned to your body at a fast rate. It's a good sign, young Midoriya, the veteran responded. The other matches took place rather quickly while he was getting healed. Bakugo had won easily, and even more easily did Todoroki win his. Midoriya knew what that implied. He was in the bracket where he'd have to face Todoroki next. Early on, Todoroki had already made a bold declaration to defeat him. It seemed he had something to prove in this sports festival. Something related to proving to Endeavor, his father, the number 2 hero, he could thrive and win without using his right side. It's Shoto's duty to suppress All Might as the number 1 hero, so don't disgrace him or yourself by holding back. Hit him hard, Endeavor said to him just minutes ago, words that held command and significance.
Now a match you've all been waiting for. The second stage of the finals. From Class 1A, Shoto Todoroki. And also from Class 1A, Izuku Midoriya.
Mike Presenter's voice boomed, snapping him out of his train of thought. This was it, his toughest challenge yet. Though he was nervous, he didn't plan to lose. With a deep breath, he clenched his fists. He walked out into the lively stadium, walking all the way into the arena, staring down at Todoroki, whose gaze was as cold as ever. So here we are. Todoroki started with a slight exhale. Yeah, and only one of us is going to win, Midoriya replied, with equal intensity.
Begin!
Right off the bat, a large geyser of ice erupted from Todoroki's left side, heading towards him with great speed. Midoriya's right arm extended with his palm open, his left arm keeping it steady while holding the forearm, his legs apart, crouched low while his feet dug down to keep his balance. Smash! He yelled, coursing One for All as the large tendril shot from the palm at lightning speed, piercing the column of ice with such concentration it would shatter the ice first before a secondary attack of wind pressure followed. The pressure, now free to move without obstruction, sent Todoroki crashing into the support of the ice he placed behind himself, sending him flying. Quickly, with his left arm out as he tumbled, Todoroki guided a curved ice column to accommodate his being, halting his progression. So the whip breaks the defense, and the wind pressure attacks, he thought to himself, rising up from the ground while he formulated a plan. He attacked too fast. If I hadn't used Black Whip, I would have been out from the start, Midoriya thought to himself, holding his right arm from the backlash from shooting the Black Whip, with so much force had broken his bones inside. Pain spread through his arm as he whimpered slightly. Watching Todoroki carefully, the way he used Black Whip itself was in reference to the display of brute strength All Might made use of. Quite unsuitable for the type of quirk it was, but it was the only way he knew how to fight for now. I won't have much time to use Black Whip for much longer. I need to find a weakness, he said with heavy breaths. I've seen it. That instant, another wave of ice shot out from the earth quickly with great height towards Midoriya. Using his left arm, he forced the lifeless right back up, shooting out another 10 bit, in response shattering the ice. Wait, what's this? Todoroki used the ice as a facade to get close to Midoriya? Mike Presenter's voice brought him to the realization of impending danger. His head turned to his right where Todoroki had appeared. Everything seemed to go slow as the lad clawed out his left air, ice flowing, only to freeze him dead in his spot. Responding under impulse, his body ducked low to the earth, the wave flying above. Using that broken right arm with torn muscles to support himself on the ground, his body screamed out in agony, which he paid no attention to with adrenaline in action. How couldn't have I noticed him coming so close? Wait, this is my chance. If I could control this quirk to grab him without killing him, I could send him flying out of bounds. Come on. Adjusting his balance, he turned sharply, aiming his left arm at Todoroki. With such focus, the tendril shot out, reaching and wrapping him. Midoriya grasped the whip, throwing him with force, pain searing through him as blood spilled from his arm. Reaching out behind him, a wall of ice formed, his body crashing and destroying the ice on impact. Whoa, Midoriya just threw Todoroki. That seemed like a damaging blow. Frost crept onto his body quickly. Reducing temperatures drastically caused Todoroki to get frostbite that impeded him. Izuku noticed it, yelling in frustration. Come on, Todoroki. You haven't landed a single scratch on me. I'm giving it my all here and you're holding back your power. I don't know what you faced, but if you can't bring out your all, you'll never become number one. Those words from Midoriya seemed to snap Todoroki awake, remembering memories he had forgotten about his mother. Free will to use the power given to him, that was what she told him. I see now. You reminded me of something I had once forgotten. Thank you, Midoriya. From his right side, steam began to form. Those frostbites evaporated from his body with a great burst. A large conflagration of fire engulfed Todoroki, causing a fire cyclone around him. The cool air that swept the arena once was replaced with hot air. Midoriya smiled. His words had gotten through. Let's end this, Midoriya, Todoroki said. Ice grew from his left side rapidly, faster than ever, and his fire burned brightly with a great ferocity. Cementos, the judge of the match, had felt the gravity of what was going on, knowing that these two boys could harm themselves beyond cure. He erected large walls of cement as a barrier between the two. Midoriya, with two hands broken, sucked it up knowing he had given it his all in his last attack. With his fists clenched so tightly, he noticed multiple tendrils emanating as they were closed, while Todoroki prepared his final attack. A flash on inspiration and idea swept through him. Just at that moment, he withdrew his fist, releasing it forward. 3 black tendrils shot from his clenched knuckles. With such celerity, the air around them became concentrated like spears. Simultaneously, Todoroki lifted his right arm slowly. The arm glowed a bright red as an overwhelming amount of fire engulfed the arena, destroying those walls and colliding with the force of Midoriya's attack. Bright light and storm of debris with dust whipped round, the whole stadium clouding vision. Instantly, silence throughout the stadium. Everyone was waiting calmly for the dust to settle, to see who had won the final exchange. Midnight and Cementos, who had been thrown away, rose to get their bearings as well.
That was something else. I don't believe my eyes. The final attack destroyed the whole arena. I can't see. Wait, I see someone. Todoroki. Todoroki is out of bounds. Midoriya is the winner!
Mike Presenter yelled. It took a while for the spectators to see what he was talking about. Until the dust cleared, the whole stadium roared. Just out of bounds into a wall was an unconscious Todoroki. With his clothes torn, his body bore many bruises and cuts. Midoriya lay in the ring, far worse. with his arms mangled and twisted, not moving. But one noticeable thing was his left hand that had a tendril rooted to the ground. He had done that in the split second of attacking to ensure he didn't fly out of bounds during the exchange. Truly a spectacle to behold. Stretchers came to pick up the two boys, taking them to Recovery Girl. She'd need to give a status update on Midoriya's situation to see if he could compete.
Well, that was a thrilling match. We just received news from Recovery Girl. Though Midoriya won the match, his injuries are too grave to continue in the finals. So sadly, he'll have to forfeit. But what an exhilarating match that was. Don't you think so, Eraserhead? Your students are wild. Now let's move on.
Thank you all for watching the video to the end. Now there's a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank the writers of this video and editors for this video. Their details will be in the description. If you're a voice actor, editor, or writer, or you're interested in becoming one of those, go to the Discord that's in the description of this video and hit up the head of one of the departments. We're always looking for more members to join us. That's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and hit that like button if you'd like the video. Until next time, peace out mortals, have a fantastic day.